of money for these private banks. And then suddenly in 2008, there's this massive default, it collapses. The question is, why did this happen? And again, you're taught in economics class, this is just a law of gravity, okay? If you go too high, you're gonna fall. But what people don't tell you is this, there are actually people who made a lot of money because of the collapse. John Paulson. How much money did he make in this collapse? $20 billion, guys. That's a lot of money. $20 billion. How did he make his money? He made his money by betting that the house market would collapse. You understand what happened? Okay? So think about this. Okay, I lend $1 million to Amber, okay? And every month you have to pay back $10,000. But then suddenly you can't pay me back, right? But if I tell you, Amber, you can't pay me back, you have to give me your home, okay? Then I lose my investment in you, right? So I don't do that. I keep on letting you live in the house, pretend that you can pay me back even though you can't pay me back. But then Vincent says to me, hey, Mr. Jiang, I bet you that Amber will not default on her loan because she hasn't defaulted in the past 10 years. I say to Vincent, how much do you want to bet me? And he's like, $500,000. Okay, he's so confident that you will not default, right? So I say, sure, Vincent, I'll take this bet with you, right? Now what I do? Now I make you default because now I can make $1 million from Vincent. And that's how it worked, guys. You think it's a very complicated thing. It's not. It's all a giant scam because only a few people control the entire system. This is how you make $20 billion in this game, okay? There's stupid people buying mortgages from you, right? But you have even more stupid people who bet that you will not default on these mortgages. And so you take your money from the stupidest people. And that's why the system collapsed. Because you're gonna make more money from collapsing the system than just letting it go on. Okay? This is John Paulson. This is Jamie Dimon. And he also profited from the bank collapse. Why? Because when these banks collapse, you can start to consolidate the banking industry. Okay? So JP Morgan started to buy these other banks that were losing money. And JP Morgan now is the largest bank in America. All right? Also, guys, look at this. Before 2008, most homes were actually owned by individuals, okay? This is 2008, okay? So the gray are just individuals. They might have one home, they might have 10 homes, okay? But there's basically individuals. The blue are those who own more than 1,000 houses. And then the dark blue are those big banks that own like 100,000 of homes, okay? So before 2008, you can see like most people were in the gray, okay? These are just individuals. But then at the collapse, you see the blue and the dark blue go way up. Why? Because these homeowners lost their homes. And so these banks and these companies can come in and buy them on the cheap. Does it make sense? So the great financial crisis of 2008 destroyed millions of lives, but it made it profitable for a few powerful individuals and institutions. Okay? All right. A major consequence. So then you're like, okay, no, Mr. Jiang, you don't get it. It's gravity. Eventually, a bubble has to collapse. Well, okay, today we have two bubbles. We have something called the private equity bubble, private credit bubble, okay, where private banks lend money to private companies. And people say it's $2 trillion. And it hasn't collapsed yet. Why? Because the private banks allow the private companies who are losing money to keep on going. You understand? The private banks don't come and say, hey, you guys are losing money, you should declare bankruptcy, and I'll take whatever you have. Why? Because they would lose a lot of money that way. Okay, do you understand this idea? These bubbles can keep on going forever. They don't have to collapse. Another big bubble today is something called the AI bubble, right? These companies, NVIDIA, OpenAI, when their AI products don't actually make any money. Like ChatGPT does not make any money. In fact, it loses money every time you use it, okay? Because it's more expensive to run ChatGPT than it generates in revenue. And it's a huge bubble, but why doesn't it collapse? Because these are just a few companies lending money to each other, okay? That's all it is. It's a giant Ponzi scheme. It's an inside game. So bubbles don't have to collapse. They collapse when it's profitable for a few individuals to make it collapse. All right? Okay. Another idea I want you to understand is that after 2008 great financial crisis, this created problems in the global economy. And so what happened was transnational capital decided to save the global economy by allowing China to rise. Okay? So this is not known, but one major consequence of the great financial crisis is that transnational capital encouraged China to print money. Okay? All right, so I'm going to show you how. But first, let's talk about the main mechanism to allow this to happen. It's called the Bank of International Settlements, okay? And this is, the Bank of International Settlements is in Basel, Switzerland, and it's considered the central bank of central banks. So every nation has a central bank, okay, that determines interest rate, but the BIS is the central bank of central banks, which coordinates all central banks. All right? And it is the most powerful bank in the world. All right. And you think that, okay, this must be public. No, it's not public. It's just run in the best, it's managed for the best interests of powerful people in the world, okay? All right, so this is from the book, Basel, Tower of Basel, okay? Can you read?
For despite Hitler's bluster and Schacht's planning, Nazi Germany had not achieved autarky. It needed to buy vast amounts of raw materials to manufacture armaments and to feed, heat, and clothe its population. Swedish steel, Romanian oil, Portuguese tungsten, even South American beef, all had to be purchased and paid for in hard currency. Nazi Germany needed a financial channel to the neutral countries it ran through Basel, which is the main reason why Nazi Germany did not invade Switzerland or Sweden. These neutral countries were far more used to the Third Reich as
Third Reich.
Third Reich, as monetary hubs on the transnational financial network than as extra swaths of German-controlled territory.
Okay, so what this means is this. In his speeches, Hitler promised independence from the global financial order controlled by the British, okay? But you can't really do that because you still have to buy things from other places. But then you're like, I need a bank to lend me money to buy things, but also help me facilitate transactions. Okay, and this is the idea of transnational capital. And transnational capital, they don't really care if you're evil. They don't care. All they care about is how can I make money. So this Bank of International Settlements and transnational capital was helping to fund the Nazi war machine because it was profitable to do so. Okay? And you think, okay, after Hitler lost, the Americans would surely know, okay, Bank of International Settlements is evil because they helped the Nazis, therefore we should destroy the Bank of International Settlements, okay? But that's not what happened. After World War II, the Bank of International Settlements became even more powerful.